Today in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can recreate the Shutterbox effect that I made last week. So your very first step is going to be to plan and film your footage. So you need to know what effect you're going to be doing and what you want to do with that effect. I knew for my effect, I wanted the box to fall over and shatter and just disappear. So I knew that for that, I need footage of my box falling over. And then I also needed footage of my background without my box. So that way I can actually make the disappearing effect. So this is the footage that I captured. Here we have my empty space without my box. And there it falls. So once you have your footage, you are going to come into Adobe After Effects and you're going to come down to New Composition. Open that up. You can title yours whatever, but I'm calling it Shutterbox Tutorial since I'm showing you what to do. And then for my duration, my clip was about 9 seconds long, so I'm going to make my duration 10 seconds. So that way I have some room to slide my clips around. And then at the very end, I'll just shorten it down to whatever I need it to be. But this will change depending on how long your footage is, so, keep that in mind. But yeah, once you have your composition named, your duration time set, and everything else looks fine, you're going to press OK. And now your composition is made. So now we're going to add our footage. So open up your file. You're going to just press and hold, or I guess select your footage, and you're just going to drag it over to your project. Now that you have your footage in Adobe After Effects, you're just going to press it down, you're just going to select it again, and drag it down to your timeline. And while it's rendering, you can come up to File, press Save As, so that way you can save it onto your computer. I already did that, but you can Control-Shift-S or just go up to File, Save As to save it to your computer. And then, once your footage is rendered, Control-S or Command-S to save your progress. So now that we have our footage fully rendered, our first step in editing is going to be to split up our footage, so that way we have just our empty background and we have the actual footage of the box. So I'm going to come to, I want to cut my footage before the box comes in, but also before the shadow of the box is visible. So I'm going to just scroll frame by frame using this. Here you can see the box shadows starting to come in. So right here is where I want my background footage to be. So I'm going to leave my scroller right here on this position, and I'm going to split my footage into 2 layers by pressing Control, Shift, and then D. So now my footage is split up. This is my background footage, and then this is my footage of my box. So to avoid confusion, we're going to name these. So come over to your layer name. You're just going to right click it and then rename. I'm going to call this background, so I know that's what this is. And then for this layer with my box in it, I'm going to call it box. So once again, right click, rename, box. Because I want my footage to actually start with just the box coming in, I'm actually going to slide this over. So I'm going to move my scroller to the very beginning of my timeline, and then I'm going to select my box footage, and I'm going to press and hold Shift, so that way it'll snap in place with my scroller. So now our footage is going to play just like this, right here from the beginning of the box clip. So once we have it lined up like this, we're actually going to split our box clip up to the exact frame that the Cheez-It box hits the table. So right about there, here it's above, here's right where the box hits the table. So we're going to, once again, leave our scroller here, Control Shift D, and now we have our footage split up like that. And I'm actually going to rename this layer, right click, rename. I'm going to call this Shatter, so I know that this is where I'm going to apply my shatter effect. Now we're going to move our scroller to the very beginning of this clip, right here where the box first hits the table, right there. We're going to freeze frame this clip, so that way we can mask it out later. So we're going to apply the freeze frame, we're going to right click our shatter clip. We're going to come up to time, right here, hover over it, and we're going to come down to freeze frame while leaving our scroller where it is. So remember, right click, time, come down to freeze frame, select, and now our freeze frame, now our clip is frozen on this very first frame. So now our box slides in and falls, and it stays fallen. Now, our next step is we're going to actually mask out our Cheez-It box. Because I guess because the Cheez-It box was still a little in motion, let me zoom in here, you can see that it's a little fuzzy. So when we mask it out, especially if you planned out your background properly, we don't need to make our mask right up against the box. So we can have a little bit of, I actually recommend there being just a little bit of an edge, so that way you don't have any blurred out pixels of the Cheez-It box on the outside of your mask, because that could ruin your effect. So come up and select your pen tool, or you could just press G. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and I'm going to use my hand tool to move my view around, but I'm not actually moving the footage around. Select my pen tool again, or press G, and I'm going to have my mask start right there, just on the outside of my box. Yeah, it's okay to leave this excess space. A little too close. If you mess up on your mask, you can just Control Z. Yeah, that looks good. Right there. So now we have it masked out. As you can see, when our background footage ends, you can see the edges of our Cheez-It box. So we can see that we've masked it out. And make sure that your mask is on Add, so that way your Cheez-It box is being added to your layer. Now, because we don't want this black background behind our Cheez-It box, we're going to actually move this over flush with our Cheez-It layer. So we're going to take our scroller, once again press and hold Shift so it meets the very end of our shatter clip. Then we're going to select our background clip, press and hold shift, and slide it over till it snaps right here with our scroller. And now you can see that there is a background to our masked out Cheez-It box. So from here, we're going to actually add, change it back to your selection tool. From here, we're going to actually add our shatter effect. So you're going to want to come up to your effects and presets, type in shatter, and it's going to be here under simulation, shatter. And then you're going to press and click and hold, and you're going to drag it down onto your shatter layer. Let me zoom out a little. So now we have our effect added to our shatter layer. But as you can see, it looks like our effect has already happened. So here we have it in our wireframe and force view. So these little brick-like shapes are our wireframe, and this blue circle is our force, but we're gonna mess with that later. But right now we need to line up our effect so it can start at the right time. So we're gonna actually gonna select and hold and just move our clip back a little, and then hover over the edge right here and extend it so that way we can find where our shatter effect starts. So here you can see some of the brick pieces have flown. So that means if we just keep going forward, right there. Here is where our shatter effect is still whole. This is where we want to start. We actually want to start, right here, just before it actually starts to break. So you want to keep your scroller right here on this frame just before it breaks. Here we see it breaking. So right here on this frame is good. Once again, leave our scroller here, press and hold shift, so that way it snaps in place. And then, because we don't want our clip to be that long, we can actually just shorten this down a little. And then we're going to move it so that way it lines up with our box clip. So press and hold shift so your scroller snaps to your box clip. Select your shatter clip, press and hold shift, and move it till it snaps with your scroller. So if I switch this back to rendered view, oh, it's a little bit off. Let me see. Let me back this up just a little. Okay. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that just needs to move over just a little bit. But yeah, so now as you can see, our clip is going to play, the box comes in, and when it falls, as soon as it hits the table, it begins to shatter. So now it's shattering. Actually, let me shorten this clip so it lines up with their background. I'm going to press and hold shift once again, and then press and hold shift to snap this in place. Sticky keys. So that's basically it for the effect. Everything else is just a matter of preference and how you want the shatter effect to look. So it's entirely up to you. If you're happy with how it looks now, you can completely leave it at that. But if you want, you can change things around. Like you can change the shape that your pieces shatter into. So this is bricks, I think. So to change that, you can come down to shape, open that up, pattern, bricks, and you can change it to any of these shapes that you want. Chevrons, your pieces will break into chevrons, crescent, your pieces will break into crescents. I know for mine, in the video I uploaded, I made mine break into glass. So mine shattered sort of like this. You can also change how big or how many pieces they're going to be. So if you move up your repetitions, you can see I have a bunch of smaller pieces of glass. And if I move my repetitions down, I just get just a few really big pieces of glass shattering. But you can change that. You can, let me go to wireframe real quick, change the direction your pattern is going to be in. You can change the origin of your pattern, so you can move that around. Extrusion depth, you can change, is going to change how thick the pieces are going to be when they break. So turn it up, the pieces get thicker. I know I did that for mine since it's a box, and I wanted it to be more three-dimensional. But yeah, you can mess around with the shape, you can mess around with the force, you can change how big you want the radius of it to be. So if you only want some of the box to break, you can shrink down your radius. You can move it around so that way it can break in different spots. You can change your depth, so it's going to be where it is. Let me see if I can get this in a, there we go. I'm just rotating the camera. So if you're messing with your depth, you're going to be changing where it is in relation to your wireframe. So like a lower depth is going to be before it hits it. Higher depth is going to be in front of your wireframe. So you can just mess around with that. But yeah, there's a lot of different settings that you can play around with. So you can see what settings that you like or what settings you prefer for your effect. Once you're done, once you're happy with it, make sure to, first we need to make sure to shorten our timeline, so we don't want to export all this excess stuff. So we're just going to come to composition, select, come to composition settings, select that. It looks like my overall clip is only 5 seconds long, so I'm going to change my duration to 5 seconds. So now our clip just ends at 5 seconds. Then I'm going to Control S, save my project. Going to come up to File, come down to Export, add to render queue, and then I'm just going to choose the format it's going to export as and where that file is going to export to. But that's basically it for this tutorial. Once again, just mess around with the settings for your shatter effect until you're happy with how it looks, and then you can just save your project and export it. And that's basically it.